On the field. Off the field. Sports talk. Entertainment and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 71 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Greg, joined by the man, the producer, Leighton Pip Shadowtone.
Guys, today I learned a little fun fact. Do you know why basketball teams change sides in between halves or quarters or whenever they change sides?
I have no idea.
Because at one point in time, somebody angled the rims.
It's actually you're close. If it goes back when basketball became a thing back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, probably in the 80s, before they mastered all the advanced tooling, engineering techniques, the rims would be, a few millimeters bigger or smaller on one side and make an unfair advantage. Takes two or three shots a game can mean a whole lot of games.
Wow. Thanks for the fact. I thought it was just like some guy like me trying to get like an actual advantage and like bending the other team's rim.
That's something you would do, though.
No, it is. I would totally do that. And our guest host today, B-Reich, the hot take detective, Brandon Riker.
What do you call a man who continues a relationship with a woman who gave a false domestic abuse report to the police? An idiot.
Yes. Yeah.
Reuben Foster is a dumb shit.
Yep. Reuben Foster may be the dumbest man on the face of the planet. Not only does he like to try to fight women, but you remember the healthcare worker story where apparently at a hospital, at the Combine, he was trying to duke it out with them. So, interesting fella. Hopefully he never makes it back to the NFL. So, guys, be sure to follow us on Spotify, iTunes. Be sure to download, subscribe, rate. Give us that 5-star review. Check us out on thefsgn.com where you can find our podcast and other podcasts as well. Follow on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. Guys, we have a very, very good show for you today. Guys, we will talk about the wild Week 12 of the NFL season. We will break down the conference finals in all of the NCAA P6 conferences because we are P6 friendly. And we're actually going to get to talk about a little bit of NBA and some college hoops. This will actually be the first time that we get to talk about college hoops. And we'll pat Leighton on the back as the Duke Blue Devils have lost. So, guys, in some little Thanksgiving football action, which this was the best week in the world. We got football all week long. The Cowboys rally off their third straight win and propel themselves into first place of the top-notch NFC East. Guys, we've seen Amari Cooper for 3 games. He's turned that into 291 yards, 2 touchdowns. Are we ready to call the Cowboys for real?
No, absolutely not. Not at all. They're not going to beat the Saints this Thursday. They're at home. They might get routed at home by the Saints. And honestly, their ceiling is like maybe division winners because look at the division. The Eagles aren't out of it yet. And I'm not really sure how much better Cowboys are than the Eagles. The Cowboys just happen to be hot right now and play some not so great teams. Like, they beat Colt McCoy. That's who they beat on Thursday, Colt McCoy.
Yeah, that's a pretty good quarterback there in Colt McCoy. Ask anybody from Texas.
That's true. But yeah, I'm right with you, Leighton. This team, they're not for real. They're not among the NFL elite by any means. This team has a very good chance at ending 8-8, and still winning the division. I do love Amari Cooper on this team, though. This is what I envisioned Des Bryant was going to be on this team, and that never happened. And Jason Garrett's just not being dumb in giving Zeke the ball, which he should, and letting Dak Prescott do a lot less, which is turning out to be a lot more production. But I'm with Leighton. This team might not win the NFC East, and I'm giving them an 8-8 record. So,
yeah, they probably will end the season 8-8. But that's what you expect out of a team. They're a good defense, which I cannot believe I'm saying that about the Dallas Cowboys. They're a good defense that can control the ball and a competent quarterback, and a whole slew of receivers that can't get open after 15 yards, except for maybe Tavon Austin, who will just run straight. But I feel like their ceiling's like the NFC East champ. at the 8-8, like Brandon. So I'm there. Are you guys willing to say that this team can win any games in the postseason, though? Because I think we all expect them to make it, just because they are a team that can go 8-8, maybe get 9-7, and make the playoffs in a very, very bad division. But can they win a playoff game?
Looking at who they might play in the playoffs, like they'd probably playing the Bears. I guess the Bears all the 3 seed, and they're the last wildcard team in. Is that how that works?
No, they would be. I think that if they won their division, they would get a wild card team.
Yeah.
So the Bears would have to fall to the wild card.
So it would be like Vikings or Panthers.
Seahawks, Vikings, Panthers.
Okay, see, I can see them being a team like the Seahawks or Panthers, who are just straight up hit or miss every week and take some kind of heroics from Russell Wilson, like, yeah, should have pulled out the win. But I can't see them being a team that's actually another division leader.
Exactly. That's 100% what I was going to say. They're not beating the Vikings. I give them maybe a punter's chance against the Panthers and the Seahawks, depending on what team shows up. But I don't think they're as good as those teams. So, wild card game, possibly win if they draw the Vikings or Panthers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Panthers, Seahawks.
Yeah. See, they played the Panthers and the Seahawks earlier in the season. They averaged a whopping 10.5 points against those teams. They scored 8, I believe, against the Panthers, and then 13 against the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And that's just not going to cut it in the postseason. I feel like every single time this team runs into an actually good team that will push back at all, they are what we think they are. So I don't see them beating any of those teams. More than likely, they're going to draw the Vikings because I think the Vikings is the best out of all 3 of those teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs. I could see that being a game where the Vikings just absolutely manhandle them. Like, they can't get a run game established, and we've seen it time and time again. If they force Dak Prescott to beat them, Dak Prescott does not win those games. Like, Dak Prescott is a competent quarterback, but he is not going to put your team over the edge and beat a good team like the Vikings. So second on our slate here, the Ravens actually have snuck back into a wild card spot with back-to-back wins with Lamar Jackson at the helm. Guys, I love these type of controversies. Do we have a quarterback controversy on our hands?
We do, absolutely, but it really shouldn't be one. If you look at it, because John Harbaugh been nothing early in the season coaching for his job, and that now is the only tiebreaker ahead of the Colts, who have won 5 straight games. And quite frankly, with Lamar Jackson, there's a better team. The offense is more dynamic, and actually look like they can actually beat a good team at some point. With Joe Flacco, when the offense is stagnant, they can't throw a ball deep, or won't throw a ball deep, and he, throw 20 completions for 200 yards.
Well, I agree. Yes, obviously there's a controversy. There's a first-round draft pick that's obviously been drafted to be the future. But I'm not completely sold that Lamar is actually the answer. I think that Joe Flacco is a better option right now. Now, they played the Raiders and the Bengals, which 2 are the worst defenses in the league. Absolute worst. Joe Flacco was throwing it like 45 times a game. Yeah, now, if you throw Joe Flacco back out there and tell him to throw the ball 45 times a game, he's going to lose almost every single game. Most quarterbacks will. But right now, they're running the ball. And Leighton, you're right. They definitely, at very least, they need to use Lamar Jackson more. He's a dynamic player. He's a freakish athlete. But I think for prolonged success, and if you're going to make any noise in the postseason, it's going to be with Joe Flacco and running the ball maybe 30 times a game.
Yeah, I think that they do have to get the run established. But, like, with Joe Flacco, I don't think that anybody really respects Joe Flacco to beat him over the top. Like, I know that these are kind of skewed because the Raiders and the Bengals are so bad. But, guys, they're averaging over 40 yards of offense per game with Lamar Jackson at quarterback, which, it's a little different than what we saw with Flacco. A lot of their yardage was through the air. But now they are just completely dominant running the football, which the biggest telltale stat, the first handful of games that Joe Flacco had started, they were only converting on third downs at a 45% clip. With Lamar Jackson, they're moving the ball on third down at a 55% clip, just because it's creating shorter distances to go, a lot of that read option stuff. I mean, guys, we are seeing a man in Gus Edwards, who none of us knew his name at the beginning of the season, become, a very, very good back in the NFL. He has back-to-back games with over 100 yards. He's looked great. And over the last 2 weeks, they're not only just running the ball, they're running the ball efficiently. They posted their second and third highest yards per attempt in any games this season, in both passing and rushing alone. So they're more efficient even passing the ball with Lamar Jackson, which is kind of surprising. And I think they're just kind of catching everybody off guard. Like, it seems like in this offense, like every pass is a trick play. And it's catching people off guard. And whenever you have a good elite defense like the Baltimore Ravens have, this might be the kind of thing that you need to look at doing. You know, Lamar Jackson has the ability to break the big play. And as long as he keeps his turnovers down, they're going to win a lot of games. I really think that they should stick with Lamar Jackson just because, you know, Harbaugh is in this weird spot where he's coaching for his job. And in order to kind of prolong that an extra year, it's kind of like where Jeff Fisher was at whenever he had Jared Goff. Like, you start the guy, you kind of hitch your pony to him, and you say, I need to get this guy some more reps, and, you know, I can keep my job this way. But I also think that is their best way to be successful. Do you guys think that if they do just ride with Lamar Jackson for the remainder of the season, they can lock up a playoff spot?
I think that they'll be the same, but I think it'll be a little bit better with Lamar Jackson just because Steven has to respect another just offensive weapon.
See, and I'm not with it. Lamar, I mean, how many times has a strict RPO quarterback who's only doing one read, how long has it had prolonged success? It really hasn't had. I mean, the only time we had it was with RG3. They started catching towards the end of the season. He ended up getting hurt. I see the same thing. I mean, Lamar Jackson's only doing one read on the passing offense. If you continue to run the ball and you actually make that an actual focal point, then you're going to have more wide open lanes and your passing game's going to be better. I think you're pretty much the same either way. But I don't know if Lamar Jackson, you know, down the stretch I would probably want Joe Flacco. If the game was on the line, as silly as that sounds, I would want Joe Flacco. Just saying that out loud, I kind of hate saying it, but
yeah, it's kind of like that game that Fletcher likes to play, like say it out loud, and if you can believe it, then it's true. Saying Joe Flacco is my guy in the fourth quarter makes me nervous. But saying Lamar Jackson is my guy in the fourth quarter also makes me probably even more nervous. It'll be interesting to see what unfolds over the past few weeks because I think Flacco is expected to return pretty soon. So I am very excited. I love quarterback controversies. They are my favorite thing in the NFL, especially with fringe playoff teams. So, guys, the games have played without a sack. The streak has ended for the Colts, but the winning streak did not. They have now rattled off 5 in a row. Guys, we did the contender card, I believe, 3 or 4 weeks ago. Are we ready to put the Colts in the contender card?
No. As you guys know, I have a very, very slim contender card. I'm a very cheap guy coming to contender card. But week 14, they play the Texans, who are going to be Super Bowl right now, Super Bowl champion. Clearly won 7 straight games. It's going to be 8 after tonight. They play them. If they could beat Jaguars next week and Texans the following week, I will then consider putting them in the cup. But right now, not even considering it.
Yeah, I'm kind of considering it only because I think this team is very scary. It's got a great offensive line, and their 2 biggest weaknesses in the pass, defense, and run game, they're actually doing those well. But I'm with Layton. I'm not putting them in the contender card. The best team they've beat is the Titans. And I mean, we don't even know what the Titans are. They're definitely not contenders.
The Titans don't even know what they are.
No, they don't because it's every other week they're good. So, yeah. But I do like this team going forward. And Andrew Luck is the quarterback. I mean, he's starting to make us realize he is that quarterback that we thought might be the best quarterback in the league 4 years ago by this time. But, until they beat a good team, like Layton said, like maybe the Texans, I'm not even really considering them.
Yeah, do you guys know how? So whenever we did this, the original contender card, you guys were ready to put everything about the Bears except for Mitch Trubisky in the contender card. I am almost on the exact opposite with this. Like I put Andrew Luck alone in the contender card, but the remainder of his team, I'm still not sure about. But I think I am almost. If they beat the Texans. I'm all in on this team being in the contender card just because, guys, we've seen it like time and time again. A great quarterback in the NFL, they can patch a colossal size hole. So I am almost all in on putting the Colts there. I'm not all in yet. The defense is finally competent, and they finally have a run game. We saw Andrew Luck go to the AFC title game without either of those. So this team's finally starting to come into their own over the last 5 games, which they've won all of them. They're averaging 145 rushing yards per game, and they've had 100 yards in every single one of them except one. We've seen Andrew Luck get sacked 1 time in 6 weeks. This is just the makeup of a team that could potentially win a Super Bowl. We just haven't seen them play a really, really good team yet. So if they do beat the Texans, I am all in, 100% putting them in the contender card. The defense has finally showed up, like B-Reich said. I don't think they've actually given up 30 points yet over this streak, and they gave up 30 points 4 times over the first 6. So if they are able to rattle off that win on the Texans, we're coming back on, and we're going to put this team in the contender card. Can we do that?
Yeah, it warms my heart that you call the Texans a really, really good team. Like 2 reallys in there really, really makes you happy.
Ooh, that was a lot of reallys.
They're a really, really good team without a really, really good coach.
No, you said it best, man. Really good team.
You already said it. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I guess we will. A really, really good team, though. And we'll go with the third, really, on this one, actually. The Saints. 1-10 straight. Their last 5 wins have been by double digits, including wins over the Falcons, Rams, Vikings, Bengals, and Eagles. All teams that were, either in the playoff picture now or in the playoffs just a season ago. Do you see anybody beating this team?
Yeah, I mean, this team is beatable, and they're clearly in the tier 1 hierarchy of teams, which, in my mind, that's Chiefs, Patriots, Rams, and then the Saints. But yeah, no, I definitely think a team can beat them. I think the Rams have got another shot. They could beat them. I think the Chiefs, if their offense is clicking, and if the Patriots, if Tom Brady has a game, and hell, I even give the Vikings a punter's chance against them. So I think they are beatable. That being said, they're definitely the best team in football right now.
See, the only team I can see beating them, honestly, is the Rams. I think the Saints won that game because in the Superdome. Sitting here today, I think they're the best team, but I think the margin is so close to the Rams. I want to give the Rams that edge if they're at home, especially that when home team wins. The rest of the season, they're at Dallas and they're at Tampa Bay. Road game is bad team in both of those. They're close out the season at the Panthers, at home versus Steelers, and then at home with the Panthers. I can see them losing 1, if not 2 of those games.
Right.
Because one's at Carolina, who's a tough team at home, and another going to be a shootout against the Steelers. And a shootout, regardless where it's at, either team can win it.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if this team's going to lose too many shootouts. I don't know why, because no team can really get a run established against them. So, unless the team goes out there and tries to play a shootout with Drew Brees and puts up 48 points like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did week 1, I don't see a team beating them in a shootout. I look at it almost the exact opposite. You have to get a really, really good defense to slow down this offense just in order to beat them. I mean, guys, we are maybe the biggest anomaly in sports, which was Justin Tucker missing an extra point away from this team going into overtime against the Ravens. So I think that it's the exact opposite. I think we're going to have to find a really, really good defense that is really firing on all cylinders on any given day, like the Vikings. Whenever they played the Vikings, the Vikings had driven down the field, just gotten to scoring range, almost getting into the red zone. Adam Thielen fumble. It was just, and then they had a pick 6 with Kirk Cousins. So I think that in order to beat this team, you just have to have a really good defense and then just not turn the ball over. Because I think they're too high-powered to actually lose in a shootout. So I don't know if any of those upper echelon teams can beat them. I think it would be kind of a slow-it-down game that they would lose, if that makes any sense.
So what you're saying is Thursday night, they're on upset alert.
Yes, no, like a team like the Cowboys, if they come in, I don't know if the Cowboys defense is good enough to slow them down, but, Thursday night in Jerryland, Jerry will be there. Anything can happen. I think that'll be a very interesting game, though. So last night, we actually had the Vikings kind of put it to the Packers. They were 2 missed field goals away from just completely blowing the doors off of the Packers. Make us really question whether or not the Packers are going to be even in the postseason. Guys, what were your takeaways from this game, and where do you think both of these teams go from here?
my one big takeaway from the game was just that the Packers just aren't very good, and they haven't been that good for a while. They've been on Rodgers' back for basically ever, and Rodgers looks just like so over it, and just like frustrated that his performance on his show too. Last night, he was missing an open receiver he would never miss before, and that was costing the team points. And he wants to say the other player's fault, like defense's fault, but he scored 14 points in the first quarter. Didn't score again until the fourth quarter. Like, that's your fault. Going from here, the Vikings, they look good. They gotta keep winning football games, get the wild card spot, maybe win the beat the Bears. The Packers, I'll be surprised if McCarthy the coach in 2 weeks when they play Atlanta. That would surprise me.
If he's coaching at all?
The coaching Green Bay. Yeah, in 2 weeks against Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah. You can't look like that on national television and keep your job for that long.
You can't do what?
You can't look like that on national television and keep your job for too long. Unless it's Jason Garrett.
Jason Garrett can do it every week.
They do whatever you want.
That's true. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously there's something wrong in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers still a great quarterback. They have a couple of offensive weapons, but you're right. I mean, clearly there's something with Rodgers and that management, that coaching. It's just not working, and something's going to have to give. And I don't think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, obviously. But for the Vikings, they really should have blown this game out. Like you said, the 2 missed field goals, and we'll even add that. They went for it on 4th and 2 from like their 3 or something like that crazy and missed it towards the end of the game. I mean, they really should have been up by over 2 touchdowns. This Viking team's good. And Green Bay, yeah, it's done for Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean, if you come out and say that Green Bay still has a route to the playoffs, like, you better just go ahead and say that the Browns do too. Because, guys, these teams have identical records. And if you look at Green Bay, a couple of their wins have been pretty fluky. I mean, we saw the Niners completely fall apart on Monday night. Otherwise, they would have had another loss there. We saw a ball bounce off of Kyle Fuller's chest, which should have been intercepted. And then we're looking at this Green Bay Packers team as a 2-win football team. Like, think about that for a second. Like,
well, on top of that, they tied against the Vikings last time from 4 missed field goals.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that this team really has any steam in them. Like, we've seen it before. Aaron Rodgers just, like, puts the team on his back, gets the job done. Aaron Rodgers really has played 2 good quarters this whole entire season, and it was a 4th quarter against the Bears and a 4th quarter against the 49ers, and that was like vintage Rodgers. Other than that, he's played now 11 games, and we have not seen that from him. And in fact, I actually went back and looked at, Aaron Rodgers over the past few seasons. In his last 44 games, he is 22, 21, and 1. You do not get more average than that. And we saw a guy this week with the Vikings. This was the game that makes me look at the Vikings and say, this is the team that we thought they would be week 1 of the season. Like, we saw Dalvin Cook start making some noise out of the backfield, looked really, really good. Kirk Cousins finally came into his own and just picked apart that secondary that's really weak for the Packers. I think I'm going to go ahead and stamp the Packers as being done. Basically, at this point, they're just going to play spoiler for some teams, maybe knock off maybe beat the Bears, and that's really their only tough game for the remainder of the season. But they're just going to play spoiler, and the Vikings, on the other side of the coin, I'm going to go ahead and lock them into the first wild card spot after what I saw from them last night, because we hadn't seen a game where the Vikings show up on offense, show up on defense, and Kirk Cousins kind of get things rolling.
Oh, so you think that the Vikings locked into the wild card spot, top one?
Yes, I do. I think that they're going to be locked in.
You think that the Packers' record is finishing even close to 500?
Yes. They have a really weak schedule, but I think they'll finish right around 500.
Do you agree with me that McCarthy might be a coach in 2 weeks?
I actually do agree with that. I don't know if it'll be 2 weeks. I think it'll be at season end, just because that would take him. He would almost have to lose to the Cardinals in order to lose his job. But yeah, he'll be done at the end of the season.
Well, Drake, I agree with all those thoughts. Might be the first time ever. Get any thoughts that I can agree with?
Yes, I do, actually.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
What do the Packers and the Browns have in common? Their record and a head coach that is only there till the end of the season. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, what missed call are you more concerned about? The pass interference in the second quarter? Or the one that should have been to your mother? Jordan was wondering.
Ooh.
I wanted to come in with a Dwight Howard walked into a bar joke, but it's 2018 and, we don't do that. Mark Few can only beat the best ACC teams in November. Hey, Rogers, your team, SUCKS, sucks. Tell us about that to the fans. Tiger, Phil, I'm just glad that they did what we all wanted. We got to see the two guys that we all care about without seeing 50 other assholes run around in polos and talk to themselves. Rams, Chiefs, the most entertaining game we will ever watch in our lives. Narrated by the least entertaining guy we have ever listened to. Rams, Chiefs. Monday Night Football, Big 12 edition. Oakland Raiders, still more first-round draft picks than wins. Chase Daniel, QB1. And there's a new book out. It's called We Are Going to Run the Table. And it was written by Aaron Rodgers. And it will never be published. And those have been my thoughts. Did you guys hear Aaron Rodgers in that post-game interview?
I did not.
I need to hell no.
He ran through every single game on the schedule. Then he's like, we're going to play the Giants. We'll beat the Giants. We're going to play the Cardinals. We'll beat the Cardinals. And then we play the Falcons. And then we will beat the Falcons. And then we play the Bears. And we will beat the Bears. And goes through the whole entire schedule. It's like, this guy has not shown any urgency for his team all season. Now they're 4-6-1 with no chance of having 10 wins on the season. And now we're seeing this urgency. Like, I feel like he's played this whole entire season just not really caring. Like, if you watch him in a game, it is the most lackadaisical performance I have seen on a sports field in quite some time. He just looks like he does not care.
Well, he's just waiting until the end. He likes his back being up against the wall, all right?
Yeah, he's got to get his back up against the wall. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I, for one, can go ahead and plant my flag in the sand and say that they're toast. So, guys, let's go ahead and do a little word association for the Week 12 recap. First one, biggest winner.
Baltimore pass catches. Lamar Jackson can't throw it.
Chase Daniel, because we've learned anything, one average to good game as a backup quarterback equals 3 years of employment.
Oh, B-Reich, you actually got mine too. I put Chase Daniel and Lamar Jackson. Jackson secured his starting job for this season, and Chase Daniel secured a backup job for 8 more seasons. Biggest loser.
Pittsburgh Steelers. They should have won that game.
Packers. That season's over.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy. He's toast. Surprise.
Josh Allen.
Bortles. He actually has identical completion percentage, yards per attempt, yards per completion, interception percentage, and quarterback rating. And now he's been benched from last season.
He has all those identical stats?
Pretty much identical, like decimal points off.
That is absolutely insane. I don't think Blake Bortles is their problem. I think it's the defense, not just absolutely destroying the world is their problem. My surprise, Andrew Luck, the guy who had to phone a friend for his team's Hail Mary in Week 3, now has 3 touchdowns in 8 straight games. Biggest disappointment?
Aaron Rodgers.
Giants play call. Barkley had 5 touches in a game he had 100 first half yards. He had 5 touches in the second half from 100 first. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that stat yesterday and my jaw hit the ground. I could not believe that. I don't see how you give the guy the ball 15 times, you have tremendous success, and then he gets 5 touches in the second half. Makes no sense. I'm actually going with the Steelers. 56 pass plays, 17 points. Chance to get the, slide into that second seed. Now they have to play New England and the Chargers over the next 3 weeks. Those are games you have to win if you want a first-round bye in the playoffs. Impact injury.
Andy Dalton. The Bengals just got better.
Xavier Rhodes. He's going to MRI today, so unsure, but that could be big for him.
Joe Flacco. impacted his team positively, actually. So, Leighton, we were thinking on the same wavelength there.
Like it.
Biggest WTF moment?
Aaron Rodgers gets mad at his teammates when his team has 14 points, and they're not scoring the first quarter, and it's the fourth quarter.
Reuben Foster thought it was a good idea to keep a girlfriend who made a false report about him.
This actually isn't anything other than just a realization by me. I realized today that the Raiders fans only have 149 more games with Gruden as their coach. Biggest overreaction.
Have you ever seen Chase Daniels and Jeff Garcia in the same place? Neither have I.
Ooh, okay. I could see that.
Bortles' time as a starter in his career is over.
I'm going to go ahead and say my overreaction. Jalen Ramsey is the worst shit talker in sports. Josh Allen averaged 20 yards per completion, no interceptions, and 99 rushing yards. He's trash. Just imagine what a good quarterback like Bortles would have done to that defense. All right, guys, a little NCAA football
actually,
talk
Jake,
here.
before we move on real quick, I have to say one more thing about NFL football. I will use them for my intro, but I had to say the basketball thing first. I have a little bit of a shit take. This happened about an hour and 12 minutes ago when I went home from work. Sarah Spain came on the radio and was reading off all these Philip Rivers stats that he has the most passing yards, completions, touchdowns by a quarterback to ever not make a Super Bowl. And then a long pause. She says, well, I guess he can get some bragging rights there. I don't know if you want to brag about that.
Got some bragging rights there.
About never getting there. That's what you want to brag about.
I think you'd be right. Like, the biggest realization that would not be a bragging right, like, is that Trent Dilfer, like, recently tweeted, like, some guy was on there trying to roast him, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about as a quarterback, you know? Like, you know, your defense carried you. And he just gets on there and just basically says, like, duh. Like, everybody knows that.
Yes.
But guess what? That does not take away the fact that I still won a Super Bowl. So, I think a lot of people would rather be more like Trent Dilfer and less like Philip Rivers. Good point there, though, Leighton. A little NCAA football talk, guys. We had 3. This was maybe the wildest week we've had, and we've had a lot of wild weeks in college football. 3 top 8 teams go down this week. LSU, Washington State, and Michigan all put the final nail in their coffin for their college football playoff hopes. Opening up an avenue for a 4th team to slide in. We thought that it might be set last week. But guys, which team benefited the most from this wild week in college football?
This is a really tough call because there may be 2 teams I was looking at, but I went with Oklahoma because now basically if they can win next week against Texas and Alabama does beat Georgia, they should slide around into that 4th spot and be the full playoff team, assuming Clemson also wins. And there's also a possibility that even, actually no, if Georgia beats Alabama, Georgia's in the playoff. If Alabama beats Georgia, Oklahoma's in if they beat Texas.
Yeah, I was in between Oklahoma, but I'm actually going to go with Ohio State. I mean, they destroyed Michigan. LSU and Washington State are removed from their path, and now they get a Big Ten title game versus Northwestern. They can very well, if Texas can repeat that Oklahoma victory like they had earlier, they can go from 10th to 4th place in 2 weeks, which is really just crazy to think about. And the fact that they put up, 62 points against number 1 defense? I mean, that's going to actually hold a lot of weight with these college football playoff committee. At least I think it is. I have no idea what they think, but
we never do.
I think they like that. I think they do.
Yeah, I would hope that they liked that. That would be it'd be bizarre if they didn't, but those guys don't surprise me anymore at this point. I think the team that benefited the most had to be Oklahoma, right? I do see where Ohio State now does open up an avenue to where they can slide in, but really Oklahoma is basically the only team here that now controls their own destiny and getting in that's on the outside looking in. They moved right up, bolstering with a big win over a top 15 team, and now all they have to do is go out and avenge a loss from against Texas and have Nick Saban take care of business. So I feel like they absolutely control their own destiny because anytime you rely on Nick Saban to take care of business, you're going to be on the good side of that, like 99 times out of 100. So I think that Oklahoma is in a really, really good spot right now. So, guys, Urban Meyer, you hit on it. Hands Jim Harbaugh his 4th straight loss to Ohio State and virtually eliminates Michigan from playoff contention. Guys, this just doesn't make any sense because over the past few weeks, like, Ohio State has looked so beatable. Michigan, on the other side of the coin, has looked like as dominant of a football team as there has been in the country. Harbaugh now goes 0-4 against Ohio State. Is there really anything that you can explain about this?
I mean, I know how Ohio State won, but I have no idea why they did. Like, I mean, Michigan was the #1 defense in college football, has absolutely been dominating some teams recently. And like you hit on it, Ohio State has looked very, very beatable ever since Purdue. I mean, they've won all the rest of their games, but they haven't looked good doing it. But basically, I mean, Ohio State didn't even let a sack on, Haskins. He did, and Michigan had one of the best lines. It makes no sense. This was the year to beat them. Ohio State had no run game, and they had over 100 yards rushing with their running back. They had an exploitable defense. They didn't capitalize on that. And Michigan has 5 for sure NFL talents on their defense. And like I said, 0 sacks and let 62 points up. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is how I talked about how the Purdue game, Ohio State looked very beatable. But there was never any dying to talent. And we've all been on sport teams. Everybody's probably been on sport teams that they've played to the competition at times, if not for months at a time. I think Ohio State just finally played to their peak potential in this game. Last week, my bold prediction was that Ohio State would win this game, not just because I thought the players would play up to potential, but because this might be Urban Meyer's last game against Michigan, because there's a pretty good chance that coach again after this season.
But do you think Haskins should have thrown for 400 yards and 6 touchdowns against? Does that make sense to you?
He played to his potential. No, not at all. But he played to his potential, and as a quarterback for Ohio State, you're always going to put up numbers, and he finally just did it. First time all season, he just did it.
I feel like this has to be one of those things that just falls into, the guy has your number, and it's a mental thing at this point. Like I'd said, all season, Michigan looked like the way better team. And you look over Ohio State's run that they've had recently. Guys, you remember whenever they played Penn State forever ago? This matches their biggest win total since then. They had played they'd played Indiana, beat Indiana by 23 points, and then they basically just have a ton of close games against very, very poor talent, and then they come out here and win. So I think this has to be a mental thing more than any. I've watched a lot of Dwayne Haskins. He is not that good. He is not good enough to go out there, throw for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns against a very good Michigan defense. In the game, whenever they played Penn State, who is a pretty good defense, not on the level of Michigan, anytime he was not throwing a screen pass, that ball was going incomplete. And you look back to the Purdue game. Purdue, all they did was just play pretty sound defense, and they held Ohio State to 20 points. So nothing about this game is explainable other than the fact that at some point, some guy has your number, and there is nothing you can do about it. And I think that Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh fall into that category, which I think is extremely sad because, you look at a guy like Harbaugh, who is an excellent coach. Now, he's had this phenomenal season. He's sitting there at 10-2, and there are some people who were reverting back to week 1 thought, hey, this guy has to go. He can never beat Ohio State. Whenever on the other side of the coin, this may be Urban Meyer's last Big Ten game. So I cannot explain this. I don't think anybody can explain this. It's whatever's kicking in Harbaugh's head that can explain this. So Mackenzie Milton suffers a pretty bad leg injury, ends up having to get carted off the field. Pretty bad sight if you are a UCF Knights football fan. Do you think that this team can make any splash the remainder of the season without Milton?
So this really sucks.
This sucks bad.
Like, it sucks because now they have an actual chance to get there now. Because if Oklahoma and Ohio State both lose this weekend, do you think the committee has the cojones to keep an undefeated UCF team out of it? Because you'd think they'd be, either 6 or number 7, one of those two. And no, they don't. And I do think they can still get into the season because they are 7 and do go undefeated. And Ohio State, Oklahoma both lose, and so is Georgia. Dude, I think they can put a 2-loss team over those two guys, over that team.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I mean, there is no possible way there is a possible way, but there's no way, like you said, like they don't have the balls to do that. And this really sucks for UCF because, I mean, they're going to go up against a Memphis team and they have a chance to really put that statement win on their closest game of the season. They only won 31-30 before, and they had that chance to go in there and blow the doors off of them and even put more pressure on the playoff committee. And I think UCF will win, I don't think they're going to win in convincing fashion, and that's also even going to hurt them, even if some other teams falter. So this really sucks, and I really don't give them a chance, especially since they have to have so much help from other teams.
Yeah, I don't know if they can make the splash that they could have with Mackenzie Milton. Like, at least, if they would have been on the outside looking in after the playoff committee, all the dust had settled, they could at least have that game where they go in and play like a Georgia and maybe beat Georgia, where they can come out and say, like, guys, what is the problem? Like, what else do we have to do to make that happen? And I don't think that that's going to be the case. Like, so as far as, like, the breakdown, like, the difference between Mackenzie Milton and Darrell Mack, who is the backup quarterback, now propelled to starter, is that Darrell Mack, he opens up a lot more with his legs. The guy has almost double the amount of rushing yards than he does passing yards this season, which he has gotten some time to be the starting quarterback for UCF whenever Milton was out earlier in the season against Eastern Carolina. He just doesn't have the same rapport with the receivers. Like, whenever you watch Mackenzie Milton play, he's one of those stride guys. So what I mean by that is every receiver that's running wide open down the sidelines, he hits them in stride. And instead of where a lot of quarterbacks may just throw that ball for 40, 50-yard gain, Mackenzie Milton throws the ball and it's a touchdown just because the guy does not have to slow down at all to catch the ball. That is completely wiped out of this offense. I think that they're going to be a lot more run-heavy, and, that scares me against an SEC school because you cannot run the ball against those guys. You always have to throw the ball over the top in order to beat them, and I don't think Mack has that in his arsenal.
I mean, can you imagine them having to use Mack against Alabama? I mean, it'd be they would have to run it. I mean, they would probably throw it about 15 times in the game.
Yeah.
And you're not going to beat Alabama that way.
No, absolutely not. And Mack, I think he has like below a 50% completion percentage on the year against Eastern Carolina. So I don't see a route for them to be able to beat one of those high-powered schools. I think that they're going to be, if they do beat Memphis this week without their starting quarterback, that is very, very impressive because Memphis is a good football team. They almost beat UCF, but it just makes me nervous that even if they do win this game, we're going to see them go up against a high-powered team like Georgia or, potentially Oklahoma if they were to lose, or even LSU, and completely get housed and everybody say, we told you they didn't belong. We told you that. Like, you take Kyler Murray off of Oklahoma, what do you have? You have a team that cannot stop anybody on defense and a team that's probably going to score 20 to 30 points on offense. So I hate that for UCF. They were finally in position, and, your top dog goes out. So, guys, we kind of talked about where we thought UCF would be sitting this point, tomorrow night. But go ahead. What are your guys' top 6 teams going to look like going into the championship weekend?
I wish there was a way you could bet on what 6 teams would be. I would put a lot of money on this top 6. 1 Bama, 2 Clemson, 3 Notre Dame, 4 Georgia, 5 Oklahoma, 6 Ohio State. The reason I'm so confident Ohio State at 6 is because the committee will not, 0% chance, to put in a situation where they put UCF at 6, have Oklahoma and Georgia both lose, UCF barely win, Ohio State house Northwestern, and Ohio State jump UCF. They will not let that make a chance for that to happen.
Well, on top, I mean, that's definitely what it's going to be. I mean, I think that's like a kind of a no-brainer. And obviously, Ohio State just beat number 4 Michigan and housed them. They're obviously going to make some jumps. Like Leighton said, I think that top 6 is just set in stone, with UCF being that number 7 team.
Yeah, man, this is very tough. I would go ahead. I think Bama, like we can all say, win, lose, draw this weekend, Alabama will be in the top 4 no matter what.
Yes.
They're going to be number 1 for sure. I have Clemson at 2, Notre Dame at 3. No way Notre Dame's going to get left out. I mean, they could end up with the 4 seed potentially if Georgia was to beat Alabama this week, which would be kind of bizarre to have an undefeated team at 4. But I have Georgia at 4. They can make it in with a loss. I really think that Georgia could even lose this game as long as Oklahoma, UCF, and Ohio State lose. I think that Georgia still can make it in. And then my 5th team would be Oklahoma. They win, and Georgia loses. They're going to be in. And then 6, I have UCF. I mean, if they win without Milton, Georgia and Oklahoma have to lose, and they can sneak in. I just do not feel comfortable putting Ohio State into the college football playoff. I went back through over the past few seasons since they have done this. There's only been 2 teams, I believe, that they put in to the college football playoff that have lost by double digits during the regular season that did not get to avenge the loss in the conference championship game. And you look at that Ohio State loss against Purdue. They got beat by 29 points against Purdue. It's not like they just lost. They got absolutely manhandled. And I think that would be a very, very bad look for the committee to go ahead and throw a team in there who, like, if we had UCF playing Purdue, UCF will not lose that game. Like, Purdue is a good football team, but like UCF takes care of business against that. And we have Ohio State. Like, if you want to say the way that teams win really says it about them, like the big win against Michigan, well, we can't forget about the close win against Maryland. Like, if we're just going to, like, if you win, it should just be a win. You shouldn't have to look at it and how you won or how you lost. Like, I just don't see it, because it seems like if you beat a bad team close and then you beat a good team very, very badly, they throw away the close win against a bad team, and they'll only focus on how you beat that good team. So that makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't see Ohio State, how you can, basically put them in without having a chance to avenge their loss, or without a chance to go out there and, make up for that 29-point loss against Purdue.
But they also did beat Michigan State, and Penn State. Like, you're acting like they have. I mean,
and
though some of them have been close, but they could beat Northwestern, who's also ranked. I mean, they beat the number 4 team in the nation at the end of the season, and UC. I mean, UC. Okay, I guess we won't sway you at all. But Clemson lost to Syracuse, and then they won the national championship later. I mean. And Syracuse looked a 5-7 team that year. No,
but the Syracuse loss was different, just because the fact that Kelly Bryant came out during that game. Like, Kelly Bryant got hurt. They were playing with a backup quarterback, and they ended up losing. Like, the committee looks at stuff like that, but they had everybody healthy for the entirety of the Purdue game, and they still lost. It's not like Dwayne Haskins got hit, hurt in the second quarter, and then all the wheels fell off from there. It was basically just, Kelly Bryant goes down, and that's what your offense basically is. And then, there's a reason for the loss. There's no reason for the loss for Ohio State. Like, they can't come back and rebuttal anything other than you lost by 29 points to Purdue. And then you talk about the Northwestern thing. Northwestern should not be a ranked football team. Northwestern lost to Akron. Akron is 4-7 this year. Like, I don't see how you can do that. And you look at the Big Ten, the Big Ten just might be weak because Northwestern is a team that is playing for the Big Ten title game, and they have zero non-conference wins, including a loss to Akron.
I agree with you that Northwestern's not very good, but I do think that they are a lot freaking better than they were at the beginning of the season, and that obviously matters. I mean, a team can get better as the season goes on. I'm not saying Northwestern's great, but I'm thinking that you are undervaluing big wins just because UCF doesn't have the opportunity to play those games.
Well, I mean, now if everything, I mean, we have an undefeated team. Like, this should not even be a question. We should look at this and say, guys, we have 4 undefeated teams. This may be the only time we ever get to have a playoff with 4 undefeated teams. We should be jumping all over that. I think we've only had one season where we've actually had like 2 teams that were undefeated going into this, and that was kind of like looked at as an outlier. I would rather see 4 teams, no matter who you played, how you beat them. If you're undefeated, you should be in, because if you don't, then you're basically penalizing teams for being in a certain conference, and I don't think that's how it should be looked at.
I disagree. I think you got to win good games. This is what I got to do. And UCF has an outside shot.
Yeah, I feel like Akron, a team that lost to get back to that. I feel like they're a team that would fit right into the AAC conference, because Connecticut is absolutely terrible. Eastern Carolina is absolutely terrible. There's several terrible teams in that conference. So that's a team that UCF has played and beaten, but they have beaten them, but they're still not a great team. And they haven't had a chance to beat those good teams.
What about Pitt?
And Brandon's right. You're denouncing that because you haven't had a chance to play those teams.
Okay, so there are 10 teams that are playing in Power 5 school championships this week. UCF absolutely dismantled one of them, Pitt. So out of the 10 teams that are left standing, eligible to win a conference, a big-time conference, Pitt has absolutely destroyed them. So everybody forgets that, like, Cincinnati has been ranked. USF, South Florida, they've been ranked. And Pitt was just ranked last week. And now, all of a sudden, UCF hasn't played anybody good, even though they do have 3 good wins on their resume.
Cincinnati is really the only good. USF's not a good football team. As soon as they played anybody worth a damn, they lost. I think they have like 4 losses now. They are not a good football team. Cincinnati is a good football team. I'll give you that. Cincinnati, Pitt's pretty good. That's 2 decent teams, but that doesn't go up against Michigan's and the Penn State wins.
So then should we just go ahead and transfer it to a playoff where all we do is just play with the 5 conferences and say that only 5 conferences are eligible?
I mean, realistically, that's what it is until they expand the playoff. I mean, under the way it is right now, I mean, I don't give UCF really a punter's chance in any of those games, especially with a backup quarterback.
I mean, yes, that is the case now that the quarterback's hurt, but they weren't even respecting them as the season went on. Like, once Pitt climbed up the ladder and became ranked, like, they didn't even look at that as a good win for UCF. They just say that that's a completely different football team now. I think the only way you can fix this problem is if you expand the playoff to 8 teams, or you come out and you say, we're only going to take the Power 5 schools, and then the remainder of the schools that are non-Power 5 have their own playoff.
I think nobody would argue that. Let me back that up. I think everybody wants an 18 playoff.
I agree.
I think everybody would.
Because at this point, we could still see Michigan come back, even after that bad loss, and potentially play in that playoff. I think it's a completely flawed system, but I feel like I'm only talking to myself because the playoff committee is so far out there. So, guys, a little college football preview. We are a P6 friendly podcast, so we will talk about all 6 of these. So, right off the top, Pac-12, we have Utah taking on Washington. It's a number 17 versus number 10 matchup. Washington is favored by 3. Who do we like?
I think Washington isn't as good a top 10 team in the country, but I do think they win this game against Utah.
Yeah, actually, both these teams have a very good defense, but Washington does have some more offensive power. I think they're going to be able to stop the running game of Utah, so I see a sloppy 21-10 game for Washington.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games, the very few games in the Pac-12 where the over-under is going to be set pretty low and you even want to hammer the under just because it's going to be 2 defenses basically controlling the style of the game. But I do think Jake Browning goes out there and does enough to win, kind of like his last hoorah in a Washington uniform, and goes out on a good note for them. Big 12, number 9 versus number 5. Guys, did you see that the big win against Kansas propelled Texas back into the top 10 with 3 losses?
I did see that. I did. That shocked me a whole lot. But Oklahoma's going to come in here, and they're going to avenge the prior loss. They should not lost the game to begin with and beat Texas.
Yeah, these two teams put on a show in Dallas earlier in the season, but Oklahoma is going to avenge this loss. Oklahoma hasn't scored less than 45 points in the last 8 games. They can't stop anybody, but nobody's stopping them. Their running back's actually averaging 9.6 yards per carry, which is freaking crazy. So they will win this game and probably be in the college football playoff.
If you got to watch the Oklahoma West Virginia game, you would understand why the running back averages that much. Nobody could tackle. Absolutely nobody in the Big 12 can tackle. I'm going to go ahead and say that now. I think Oklahoma comes out in a big way and absolutely destroys Texas. They've been playing like men on fire ever since that game. They've been mad. And I actually think Oklahoma's defense is going to step up in a big way. After last week, all the talk about how bad defenses are in the Big 12, you had that huge shootout with, 100 and something points scored in the West Virginia-Oklahoma game. I think at some point Oklahoma's defense has to respond and see that they are the problem, and I think that they are going to destroy Texas. SEC, we have a 1 versus 4. Only matchup of top 5 teams we have this week. Bama versus Georgia. Georgia is a 10-point underdog. Is there any way this is going to be a game, boys?
I'm going to go with Alabama, and quite frankly, I've not a good thing to say about them.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is Tua's looked a little bit more human-like than he did the first few weeks of the season, but yeah, Bama.
That was impossible for him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's just playing like a good quarterback now. So Bama will house them. It'll be similar to the LSU game. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think Alabama's going to beat them pretty handily. Georgia has to run the ball in order to be successful, and they're not going to run the ball in Alabama. LSU tried and failed miserably. So we actually have in the Big Ten a team that I had said earlier has 0 non-conference wins in Northwestern. Number 21 versus 6, Northwestern, Ohio State. Ohio State is a 13-point favorite. Does Ohio State stay on a good note and destroy Northwestern, or is this going to be a game?
I think it's going to end up being a pretty good game, but I do think Ohio State will pull it out. I can see it getting ugly towards the end.
Yeah, if the same Ohio State comes as they did against Michigan, Ohio State will house them. But Northwestern is a very grinded out, good defense. I think it'll be a good game. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing that Northwestern coach. You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Biceps.
Dude. Oh, yeah.
I'm ready to see him go crazy.
Yeah, that guy has to be the strength and conditioning coach. You just look at him and you know. But, this is the hardest game I think there is to pick on this slate. Is that weird? Did you guys feel that at all? Because if Ohio State looks like they did last week, this won't even be a game. This will be like 60-15, and it'll be over by the end of the first quarter. But if the Ohio State team that came down and had to, stop Maryland on a 2-point conversion just to win, had to have a lot of things go right just to beat Nebraska, this could potentially be a game. I'm going to go with Ohio State, but I'm going to say that it is not going to be that 13-point spread, and I think this is going to be a very, very close game that Ohio State has to have some things go right down the stretch in order to win. So ACC, Clemson versus Pitt. Number 2 versus an unranked school. 23.5-point spread in favor of Clemson. Who do we like?
Oh, Clemson. And I can cover that spread, too.
Yeah. Clemson has beat every team with a healthy starting Lawrence by more than 3 touchdowns. So Clemson will rout them and cover the spread.
Yeah, I think Clemson wins this game pretty easily. I think they even cover that spread. It's going to be Trevor Lawrence has been phenomenal. The front line for the defense for Clemson has been killer. Nothing's going to change. So, like I said, we're P6 friendly. Since UCF does have an outside chance of making the playoffs, we will cover this. In the American Athletic Conference, Memphis takes on UCF, number 7 versus an unranked team. Last time out, they had a healthy Mackenzie Milton. UCF won by 1 point. UCF opens as a 7-point favorite. Guys, who do we like?
I'm good with UCF. They're finished out going undefeated.
Yeah, Central Florida did impress me last week with their starting quarterback Milton going down and basically just beating a quality opponent with a just solely run game. Like we've talked about, Memphis lost a 1-point thriller to UCF. They just come off dismantling Houston. I do think this is going to be a good game. I think it's once again going to be a good game, but I will give UCF, and they will be undefeated and be left out of the playoff.
Yeah, I think UCF's going to win this game. I think this is going to be one of those games where the coaches are just going to get these guys ready to play. Like, It will be like an opening bell just knockout for UCF where they come out, get a pretty good lead, kind of like the Navy game where they came out and they looked, like world beaters, and then it kind of tapered off towards the end just because I think they're going to kind of run out of gas. I think they'll be playing with a lot of emotion, trying to win for McKenzie Milton, the guy who's kind of been, their staple of their team. And I think UCF wins this game, but I think it'll be more in like the 10, 15-point range. So, guys, lock bet of the week. What do you think it is?
I'm going to take all these teams' money lines and pull them together.
Okay. I'm actually going to take my lock bet is the under on the Utah-Washington game, which I believe it's like 44.5. I like it under there.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I actually do really like that under. I thought it would be surprisingly low, and we would still...
I thought it'd be like around 40, but even if it's at 40, I want the under.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like a 17-10 game. Like, it's going to be a really low-scoring game. My lock bet of the week, I think I'm actually going to go with Alabama. I think it's going to be a very similar game to LSU where Georgia cannot run the ball, and they're just going to look from in the eye and say, beat us. So, and that's really never been the case for Georgia. They have to have more rushing yards than passing yards in order to be successful. I think Bama comes out kind of like the UCF game where they get this big lead that's too much to come back from, and they kind of just ride off into the sunset. So, guys, last week we had my favorite darts game of the year. It was Eat or Delete Thanksgiving edition. Wait and see what is back for us this week.
Well, as people know out there, we had a fight yesterday in the NFL. Therefore, we're playing Celebrity Deathmatch, NFL edition.
All right.
Okay.
Pew, 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 pew.
We're playing darts, baby.
What a good fight, though. I mean, you had Leonard Fournette versus Shaq Lawson. Two guys that are like 24 years old who look like they're, 45. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. So, guys, in case you don't know how this works, each one of us will throw two darts. They will land on a name, and we will discuss who would win in a hypothetical celebrity death match. So, latency producer, your throw.
We have a 15. Luke Kuechly versus a 9. The man of glass himself, Rob Gronkowski.
Oh,
man.
So,
all right.
For this fight, do we want to say that Gronk is just 100% healthy, or does he have all his robot parts?
He's as healthy as Gronk can be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's like 75% at best.
He's questionable with a back injury.
Okay.
And Kuechly has a concussion.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kuechly is concussed. I'm actually going to go with Gronkowski on this one. A little bit coming from the heart because you're my favorite player ever. But Kuechly, concussions are bad deals. You want concussion? Says more concussions. I think if Rob can just get some blows on the head early, he might daze Kuechly, and if his concussion might be more affected days, and Kuechly might see 5 Robs out there instead of just the one.
That's a lot of mass to see. 5 Robs.
It's the whole thing on 5 Robs.
Yeah, Luke Kuechly, he doesn't talk. He's a very grinded out guy, but I think you're right. I think he's too concussed at this point. I think Rob Gronkowski's got him even with that back injury. These are two very oftenly injured players.
Yeah,
that is very strange.
Very injured. I'm actually going to go with Rob Gronkowski, but it's going to be for a different reason than either one of you guys had picked. Did you guys ever watch those old school celebrity deathmatch shows?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's going to be similar to that, where some wacky stuff happens. I think that as soon as the opening bell rings, they're just going to come from the ceiling. All the Gronkowskis that have ever played in the NFL or just in that family, all the Gronkowskis come down like old school style and just completely dismantle one Luke Kuechly, who, there's no more than one Kuechly out there. So I think Kuechly, he's going to have to deal with like 6 or 7 of them, however many is in the family, of like the greatest athletes of all time. All of them are like 6'8", like 400 pounds, just 2% body fat. So I think Rob and the remainder of the Gronkowskis absolutely dismantle Luke.
Is Luke Kuechly from a farm? Like, did he grow up on a farm?
He had to have.
Because there's no, like, we don't talk about Luke Kuechly a lot, so I'm just thinking about it. Like,
You know what's funny?
he 100% a farm boy.
Oh, he is 100% a farm boy. So a guy that, just from the visual standpoint alone and being a middle linebacker in the NFL, Leighton Vander Esch,
Yeah.
Yep.
can you believe that he grew up in a farm town playing 8-man football?
I've heard that, so I do believe it. But no, that is unbelievable.
No, I mean, just look at it. I mean, he looks like the model guy to be playing 8-man football in a farm town.
He probably all state at that.
Oh, I guarantee he was.
They have it, yeah.
He got All-State in 2 categories, one at middle linebacker and one with the best neck collar in the game.
I do love a neck collar. It's a nice
That
touch.
collar on it with 8-man football would be hilarious.
Nice touch.
Oh, that would be awesome. All right, so all of us agree, Rob Gronkowski?
Yeah, kind of shocks me, but okay.
So, B-Rock, your throw.
We have a 2, old man Larry Fitzgerald versus number 16, Jarvis Landry.
I thought you were going to say Frank Gore.
Frank Gore.
That would be amazing, because Frank Gore would win.
Frank Gore on the list, and we didn't get him though. Jarvis Landry, who we know has fighting experience.
Oh, Jarvis Landry's losing this match every day of the week. Larry Fitzgerald is smarter than Jarvis Landry. He has old man strength, and that's the thing. I don't care what anybody says. Frank Gore and Larry Fitzgerald together on a tag team would whoop all these players' asses. Larry Fitzgerald, and he's got to be tough. If you can last all these seasons in the NFL, you got to be a tough mofo. Larry Fitzgerald's just whipping him.
Yeah, I agree with you. Landry has been in fights before, got on a hard knock, got in games before, but I feel like he's like a fake tough, where like it's all a show. Where Larry Fitzgerald is like the quiet old man who could kick your ass if you ever went at him. And the part of instances in his career, like in the locker room and stuff, with guys like young guy challenged him, and he shut him up real quick. And everybody kind of knows, hey, don't fuck with Fitz. Yeah, you don't fuck with Fitz. Gonna go with Landry.
Yeah, I mean, guys, have you ever seen Larry Fitzgerald in a fight on the field?
No, Fitz,
I know
like Layton said, he ends it in the locker room real fast.
Yes, and we're looking at a guy. How many wide receivers have you seen play consistently over the course of the NFL for 5 seasons, at least 5 seasons, that don't get in a fight?
Not very often anymore, that's for sure.
It is not very often.
They didn't fight the equipment sometimes.
No, I agree. If they'll fight anything. That's because nobody wants to challenge Larry Fitzgerald. No, because they are smart. If a man can last this long in the NFL Football League, or in the NFL, just imagine what he would do to Jarvis Landry. And I feel like Jarvis Landry would come out there in his conservative style, only just throw like jabs and dance and run and just be very, very conservative. Where Larry Fitzgerald, he's going for the home run ball. As soon as the bell tolls, I think this would be an absolute dismantling of Jarvis Landry, and Larry Fitzgerald would be the man standing.
And also, I think there's another reason Larry hasn't gotten a fight. Any person who tries to fight Larry Fitzgerald is automatically the bad guy. There's nobody. I mean, everybody is backing Larry Fitzgerald up.
At this point, absolutely.
Or the fact that he has like Chandler Jones, who they know will run in off the sideline. So that would probably be a good reason not to fight Larry Fitzgerald either. So clean sweep, Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully we have something that we can disagree on here. And now, my throw.
So we have an 11, Khalil Mack, and a 6, J.J. Watt.
This one's easy.
Ooh, man.
This one's easy.
Drake?
Khalil Mack.
Whoa, okay.
Why is it so easy?
Well, yeah, why is it walk through for you?
Because he survived the black hole.
That's the Raiders?
He went into that. He went in that. Well, he might be tougher than what we thought he was. But I just, J.J. Watt, there's no way, kind of like Rob Gronkowski, there's no way he's going to be fighting healthy. Probably has like a lingering knee or elbow issue. A lot of this depends on if J.J. Watt is able to use that brace. The brace that looks like it could probably, fit around a tree trunk. that brace, if he is able to use it, I would say it would be a close fight. But for the simple fact that Khalil Mack is 99% of the time a healthy man, I think Khalil Mack absolutely destroys him. He played for the Raiders. He knows all those little tricks. I'm not wanting to say he stabbed somebody while he was playing for the Raiders, but I'm not saying he probably hasn't seen it happen whenever he was playing for the Raiders. I think Khalil Mack's a dog, and I think he wins this fight.
See, I disagree with you. I'm going to go J.J. Watt because J.J. Watt, not quite enough to go old man strength yet, but he is definitely a farm boy. And those farm boys are freaking strong. Mm-hmm. And Jake, what can that brace fit around? A tree trunk?
Yes.
She's a big-ass dude. And he a grinder. I feel like he definitely has more grit and toughness than Khalil Mack does. For all those reasons, I'm going to J.J. Watt.
I'm going with J.J. Watt as well. Main reason, have you seen J.J. Watt in high school?
I have not seen this one in high school.
He was a twig, and he got picked on a little bit. And that guy rose through the ashes, became the dominant man we see today. Khalil Mack, I'm looking at his high school. I had to Wikipedia him real quick. He's been a stud his whole life. He's dominated. He thought he was going to get a basketball scholarship. He was a quarterback at first, and he was called the bombshell man. I don't even know why. He's had it easy his whole life. J.J. Watt had to grind.
This fight is a little bit of action. We're getting a little action because J.J. Watt did have to go to Central Michigan just to go to Wisconsin, and Khalil Mack went to Buffalo. So, guys, we have a little Mack on Mack action there.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that, but I'm going with J.J. Watt. That guy is just freaking. I mean, they're both freaks, but I'm just gonna go with J.J. I have a good feeling about him.
Like whenever you watch like a UFC fight, how they have like the montage of the guys training and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like J.J. Watts would be like 12 hours long because that's all it was on Hard Knocks. And like that's all he posts is those workout videos and him, trying to get better and all that stuff. It would be like a 3 a.m. shot of J.J. Watt like out on the field boxing with somebody. And I think for that alone, I would want to see this fight probably more so than any of the others we named.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed Frank Gore wasn't picked.
Yeah, so am I. I was really hoping like Frank Gore versus like, I don't know, another man. There's no man who's going to
any other man.
Frank Gore. Yes, I think that would be pretty easy to pick though. Maybe only if we like did cross platforms and had like Evan Gaddis come over. That's the only way it could be close. So latency, just a little review for us.
Well, in our opening bout, we have Groot Kuechly losing to Gronkowski by unanimous decision. In our co-main event, we have Larry Fitzgerald using his own man strength to overcome the fake Holland Jarvis Landry by unanimous decision. In our main event, we have J.J. Watt using his grit and toughness to beat Khalil Mack in the Battle of the Maction by split decision 2-1.
All right. So, guys, let's transition to a little bit of NBA talk. We actually have a new sheriff in town in the West. They are tied for first place. A very unlikely candidate is tied with the Warriors for first place in the West. Clippers. I figured that we would all see that coming after a quarter of the NBA season has came and passed. Do we buy into anything we've seen out of the Clippers in the first half of this season?
First quarter season, but no, not. I mean, they're a competitive team, but no, not really, because over the past 5 weeks, we've seen the Warriors, Trailblazers, Nuggets, and our Clippers all lead the Western Conference. And then they all kind of go back to the mean. They lose 3 straight or lose 4 out of 5, lose 3 out of 5, and go back. The only main staple for the Western Conference has been the Warriors. And with Steph gone, there's a lot of animosity with Draymond Green hating everybody, people hating Draymond Green. But I do think Warriors are all still the class of the Western Conference, and nothing can get me off that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this team has 3 decent scorers. You have Gallinari, Tobias Harris, Lou Williams. You have 3 good defensive players with Avery Bradley, Patrick Beverly, and Harrell. But this team has no star. Tobias Harris is their biggest star. Lou Williams is a close second, I guess. I mean, this team isn't a real championship contender at all. This team has made me think that they are going to be a lock for the playoffs, which I didn't even think was possible at the beginning of the season, but they've played very well, but this team, like Layton said, isn't going to beat the Warriors. No way. No way is a team of 4 All-Stars going to lose to this bunch.
No, I agree. But you know what this team just, like, screams to me? Like, you look at guys like Tobias Harris, Avery Bradley, Marcin Gortat, Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverly. Like, those guys, they get up for every single game. It doesn't matter if they're in the fourth quarter getting beat by 40. They're trying their ass off. And I feel like in NBA, effort beats talent a lot in the regular season. And you see that time and time again because most of these teams that are so star-ridden, they really don't start firing on all cylinders until the last, like, 20 games of the season because it is so long and they can kind of cruise on that talent. I just look at this team as being a team that gets up for every single game. They played 19 games so far this season. They've won 13 of them. And it's just because of the effort factor. And whenever it comes into the postseason and the effort factor is basically wiped away and everybody's going, grinding balls to the walls for the whole entirety of the game, the talent level finally rises to the top. And I see this team making it into the playoffs. But I think it's going to be one of those teams that's going to ride around the middle of the pack, and then towards the end of the season, whenever everybody's out there with the killer mentality, they're going to start to fall off.
Right.
And, water will find its mean, and this team will find itself like 6 seed to 8 seed.
Yeah, I mean, this team could not have – they might have an all-star team if you could only use role players.
Oh, yeah, this is the all-star team of role players.
Exactly. And like you said, they are going to be good. I mean, Tobias Harris is a borderline all-star, but the rest of them, they're just grinded out 3D players. But it's a star-driven league for a reason.
Yes, no, I agree. I do like, though, that we're seeing a little parity early in the NBA season. I mean, who would have thought? Right. Clippers, Nuggets, and Grizzlies would all be in the top 3 of the 4 seeds in the postseason a quarter of the way through. A little bit of grit work there. So, guys, the Raptors, with their Kawhi Leonard experiment, they look to be firing on all cylinders. 17-4, leaders of the East. Is it safe to say that right now they are the best team in the NBA?
Right now, I think they're definitely the best team in the NBA, just because they've been more consistent. I talked about a few minutes ago about how the Nuggets, Trailblazers, all of the risen confidence, went back to the mean, lost 3 or 5 or 4 straight or whatever. The Raptors lost 4 games all season, and isn't confidence, a lot of teams up and down. Celtics not playing that great right now. 76 are up and down. They've been consistent all season long. I think that they're the best team in the NBA.
Yeah, they're definitely number 1 in my power rankings. This experiment could not have gone better this far into the season. And it's looking like they're going to be a very quality team and a hard out in the playoffs. And I'm really looking forward to it. If the Celtics can get going and you have the 76ers, Celtics, and Raptors all playing really, really good basketball towards the end of the season, I'm really looking forward to the playoffs and really thinking one of these Eastern teams can come up and maybe make some noise in the NBA championship.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this team, actually. Like you guys said, this is going just as well as it possibly could have with this experiment. And you have a lot of unlikely heroes for this team. Like Pascal Siakam. I'll be honest, I didn't know who the dude was coming into this season, and now he's getting some minutes for the team, and he's playing very, very well. And then you look at this team, like, this is kind of like the Clippers in the way that they have all these guys who are very, very good role players, but then on top of that, they have a guy named Kawhi Leonard and a guy named Kyle Lowry who can kind of bring everything together and get you a bucket when you absolutely need it. I am very excited about this team. I think the one thing that that Kawhi Leonard has that DeMar DeRozan didn't necessarily have is that whenever DeMar DeRozan wasn't scoring for them, he's just you might as well just move him to the bench. And we saw him do that in the playoffs, down the stretch whenever they needed him most. He wasn't scoring, so he's kind of worthless. With Kawhi Leonard, if he's not scoring, he's stopping the best guy on the other team from scoring. So I'm very excited about this team. I would say that they are the best team in the NBA, and I do not think that there was a snowball chance in hell whenever this season tipped off that I would be saying that 20 games in.
Right. And then the 29th, they get to play the Warriors, which will be a lot of fun, a good measuring stick. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. That'll be a very good game. So, guys, let's switch gears. We'll talk about college hoops for the first time, mainly because Duke, the team that a lot of people said could beat an NBA team. They might have got a little out of hand with that. Took a little setback to their freshman experiment. So they can beat the Cavaliers, but they cannot beat Gonzaga. Gonzaga beat them 28 or 89-87. Does this make us pump the brakes on this freshman experiment that we looked at after 3 games that they would win the national title?
Yeah, it definitely does, because they have the same flaws they had last year. Yeah, they have better players now, but they still have, no rotation at all. They play 7 or 8 guys. They cannot be able to play defense, man, the whole game get back to that zone. And the issues from a leadership standpoint, because late in that game at Gonzaga, RJ Barrett just took the ball and played hero ball isolation for all possessions, and lots of ball movement. And I think until that gets corrected, they're going to lose games against teams that have that veteran leadership and that able to play, 9, 10, 11 guys in the game.
I actually take it kind of the other way. I mean, they got down big because of their style of play, yes, but they came back from 17 points down and had a legit chance to win that game. I think that actually says a lot about this team, especially when it is all freshmen and you are playing against a veteran team like Gonzaga. I think that showed a lot that they weren't just throwing in the towel like how Kentucky at the beginning of the season against Duke. They clearly threw in the towel. That was a team that wasn't ready to compete and a team that wasn't ready to, play against these veteran teams. Duke does need to start maybe running an actual offense at times, and they did a little bit towards the end. The last 40 seconds, they really struggled with that hero ball like Layden was talking about. But this group of freshmen is special, and they are definitely still my favorites to win it all.
Of course they are.
Yeah. I don't
They're
know
the best team.
I don't know if they'd be my favorite to win it all. I think that, teams that do actually have veteran leadership, like Kansas, Gonzaga does have that now. And I even look at, Tennessee. Tennessee is a very good team that has a lot of guys that are older, a little more mature. Like, you can't throw anything at them that they haven't seen. I'm kind of between you two, where Layton thinks that, Duke has all these flaws that they had last year, but they have better players, and their 7 guys that they're rolling out there are better than what they had just a season ago. The thing that makes me nervous about this, though, is that Duke right now reminds me of, they're very, very good. But the trajectory that they're looking to be on is one of those teams that come into the postseason highly ranked, and then they have to play 2 legitimately, 2 tournament teams on back-to-back nights. And I think that's where they're going to wear down. They had to play Auburn, who Auburn is a team filled with savvy veterans who, they can play 8 guys deep, 9 guys, no problem. And then they turn around the very next day and have to play a team like Gonzaga. And I think that's why they came out so flat against Gonzaga, is because, they were a little worn down. Now, they did respond. I think that's just due to the pure athleticism and heart that this team has, which I don't think Duke a year ago had that, where they would grind it out and try to, give some pushback on a team that's absolutely stomping them. I'm going to push the brakes on the title just lock that I thought that they were after they completely waxed Kentucky. But I think this is a team that we could see go into the postseason and play all those games for the ACC title game. And if they make a big run there, it could potentially hurt them more so than help them in the fact that they are going to be putting the same 7 bodies out there over and over and over. But they are fun to watch.
They are fun, yeah. Zion's fun to watch. He is. I was very fun to watch, too.
So maybe the wildest 2-week stretch in college basketball, we're going to give that to Villanova. They lost by 27 to Michigan. They lost by 8 to the powerhouse, which we know as Furman. And then they respond by beating Oklahoma State and number 14 Florida State. Guys, do you think that this has the potential to be the same Villanova team that can turn into a title contender by season end?
I don't think they can turn to a true title contender this season. I think the talent's there because they lose, all of their players in the draft last season. But Jay Rice, second, third best coach in the country. And he's going to have this team ready to go in March. This team can still get to 3-16, make it to the Elite 8, beat some better teams than them. But I think the talent they have right now, it would be too difficult for them to become an actual contender. So they more kind of the upsetter of a team that's better than them.
I see this team as a Sweet 16 team. Like Lane said, I think this team is going to be good. They're just not that true contender. I don't think they have the talent. And they got a 5-star recruit this offseason, and he has barely even seen the floor because he's just maybe not getting the offense. I'm not for sure. But a lot of people are saying he's not looking good in practice. The Michigan loss, obviously very bad. That Furman team, believe it or not, they actually did beat 2 Final Four teams from last year. They beat Illinois Loyola and Villanova. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. They are 6-0. They'll probably be in the tournament. So it's not like they're playing a totally terrible it's like they lost a really terrible team. But
you mentioned that they did beat those 2 teams. Could this possibly be a Furman team that plays in a conference of nobodies that could potentially make the tournament off their resume from the beginning of the season? Like
they could.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy.
They're going defeated probably. I don't know if they're they're good right now, but I think pretty win out by a lot, and then they'll probably just win the conference tournament. But this team could be in the conference. I don't know what conference they're in, or counting in the conference, but it's probably not very good. So I don't know. Maybe they're favorite right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Furman is a senior-led team. They did win those games, but anyway, Villanova. They're basically relying on underclassmen and transfers and bench players from last season. It's going to take a while, but Jay Wright's going to get them playing well enough that they are going to get to the tournament, and they probably will get to the Sweet 16. But I just don't see the pure talent level that they can actually make a real serious title run.
Yeah, I don't think that they can be a title run. I'm basically like right behind you guys on that. Like they're a good team that just because of the coaching and Jay Wright's savviness, like it will elevate them to basically play spoiler coming down the stretch, knock off some teams, maybe make the run to the Sweet 16. I don't know if it's a team that can make it to the Final Four, but Elite 8, maybe. I think Sweet 16 is kind of where I'm riding with this team. But B-Rock, you talked about Furman, and their big wins. Like LSU is a legitimate basketball team this year. And Furman has to play them December 21st. Like, if they are able to win that game, and you have 3 teams that are in the picture to be locks for the tournament, even if you do lose a couple games and even lose in your conference title game, that would be interesting. I would like to see that for a very, very bottom tier conference have an extra bid, because I think that would be hilarious, and the ACC would be very disheartened about that. So, guys, it is time for one of my favorite segments. It is called Be Reich, the Hot Take Detective. In case you guys do not know much about Brandon and I, I'm pretty sure the only reason Brandon watches sports is so he can tell me that I'm wrong in almost every one of my takes. Usually, if I get 2 of 3, I feel great about myself. I don't think I've ever ran the table, but 1 or 0 is usually where I lie on these. So be right. First one on the slate, Lamar is the best chance for the Ravens to make the postseason this season.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this already earlier, and you guys know where I stand. Let me talk about Lamar, though, just for a second. There's no doubt that Lamar Jackson is crazy talented, has a lot of skill, very athletic, and I do think he actually will be successful in this league eventually once he starts learning the offenses and they can able to incorporate him correctly. But right now, I do believe Flacco is a better quarterback. The Ravens had Flacco, like I said, throwing the ball 45 passes a game with a guy that's not overly talented. And actually, there's no team that throws the ball 45 times a game that's overly successful than maybe the Chiefs. So Flacco will be the best option for them to make a title run. If they could just utilize the run a little bit more, they have a good defense. Flacco can definitely throw it better than Lamar Jackson at this point in their career. I see them having more sustained success. And like I said before, I don't know when a strict RPO offense has sustained success at all. And he did go up against the 2 worst defenses in the league. But I do think, even if they bring Joe Flacco back, that they definitely need to incorporate some more Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
He's a fun time.
I think there's a happy median that they could find there with both of those guys. But I just think that, Lamar brings more to the table than what Joe Flacco does. In Lamar's first start, like, I watched him whenever he would get his gadget plays and stuff. But, like, in his first start, I caught myself, I was like, this guy's legitimately fast. Like, there's college fast.
No, he's
there's
fast.
NFL
Very
fast.
fast.
He is he's NFL fast. He's fast for those standards, and it is so fun to watch. So you think I am wrong in that take?
I do think you're wrong on that take. But I think Lamar, I can't wait for the offseason because I do think it'd be smart for him to roll out Lamar Jackson in the offseason after getting him a full, offseason and such.
Right. Okay. So take number 2. Aaron Rodgers is no longer the elite quarterback that was once heads and shoulders above the rest of the league.
He's not head and shoulders above the rest of the league, and I've actually thought this for maybe 2 seasons now. 3 seasons, because last year's season he was injured. He's unarguably still in that top tier for me, for sure. He had the worst game of the season last week. Threw for almost 200 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He did miss a lot of guys, but the guy who only has 1 interception on the year, he's still very good. But I think a lot of this more has to do with the play calling and a lot of dysfunction going on in that locker room and in that coaching staff because something's not clicking. And we all know Aaron Rodgers is still very talented. So, he's not head and shoulders above anybody, but he's still in that top 3-4 for me. So,
okay. So you do think that I'm right, though?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I have to throw these stats out here because I think they're just so eye-opening to a lot of people. Because it seems like everybody who loves Aaron Rodgers is like huge haters of Kirk Cousins and vice versa. Kirk Cousins over his last 44 starts, 22, 20, and 2. Aaron Rodgers is 20, 21, and 1. Kirk has more yards, better QB rating, higher yards per attempt, better completion percentage. And Rodgers has him on touchdowns and less picks. That's pretty eye-opening for their last 44 games, especially if you look at the talent that both of them had to play with. So, third take. No matter what happens this week, Oklahoma, Ohio State, they can both lose this week. Now that McKenzie Milton is injured, the committee will refuse to put UCF in the dance.
Yeah, obviously.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think a 2-loss Georgia makes it in over them.
Very high possibility.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Unfortunately.
All right, well, I'm surprised I got 2. Usually you just try to prove me wrong, just to prove me wrong. I like where we're coming to in this game. So, guys, saucy 6-pack of games for the Week 13 season. We actually have some pretty good games that I'm excited about. A lot of them have playoff picture implications. So we'll start it off for Thursday night. Saints at the Cowboys. Typically we see Thursday night teams win whenever they play at home. But do we think the Saints can break that mold?
I do think they'll break that mold in resounding fashion.
I just echo that so loudly.
Yeah. The only thing the Cowboys do well is run the ball, and defensively, the only thing the Saints do can stop the run. So I think this is going to be an ugly game. It could get interesting, though. It has the possibility to get interesting, but my gut just says Saints by 1,000,000. Ravens at Falcons.
I'm going to the Ravens this one.
This one's tough. I'm going to go with the Falcons. I think finally the Falcons will figure out how to score in the red zone.
This one is tough to me. I think things could get interesting if we see Lamar Jackson play against the Falcons, because I think that would be really fun to watch, like with both offenses, like actually fun to watch instead of just kind of the normal Joe Flacco stuff we see. I do think that the Falcons are actually able to win this game just for the fact that they did play on Thursday. They played really, really well. Their first 3 possessions against the Saints, they went into the red zone and left with 3 points. So we're in a situation where, like, Julio running down the field, fumbles the ball. Matt Ryan fumbles the ball. Like, that could have potentially been a game that the Falcons could have won. Unfortunately, turnovers got in their way. I think with extra time to prepare, the Falcons are able to pick out this win. Browns at the Texans. I cannot believe it, but we have 2 teams that could possibly make the playoffs here. Boys, who do you have?
Super Bowl champions. Texans.
I'll go with the Texans too, but I actually heard this on the radio and it made me think about it. The Browns, with that little graphic that comes up, it'll say they're in the hunt right now.
It does, yeah. Full 5-1.
They in fact have the same record as the Packers.
They're in the hunt.
Leighton, panic button time. The Titans are beating the Texans by 10 with the ball.
Oh no.
Hey, the Texans have won 7 ugly games in a row. Let's make it 8.
Make it 8. I'm actually going to go with the Browns. I think that the Browns are playing oddly inspired football, which is weird. They're playing very, very good. Baker's kind of been able to do his thing. I think that if the Browns can at least slow down the pass rush, you can't stop the pass rush from the Texans, but if they can slow it down, I see the Browns winning this game in a very, very ugly fashion. Vikings at Patriots. Can the Vikings continue to ride that hot hand?
I actually think they will. I've been pretty unimpressed by the Patriots past couple of weeks. They've been winning games, but they haven't looked like themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it started all really with that Titans loss. They just haven't looked that great. I'm going to go with the Vikings. They should have really blown the door off of the Packers if they would have converted some field goals, scored in the red zone. I like where the Vikings are heading. I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are heading the right direction. I'm going to make this a clean sweep. I think this is the first time we've ever all picked against the Patriots on this podcast history. So I think that the Vikings are going to find a way to get it done. I think Kirk Cousins finally realizing how to utilize his weapons. We've seen it before. Good quarterbacks go to play with good weapons. Kind of flat for the first, handful of games. I think they're trending in the right direction, where the Patriots are trending in the wrong direction. I'm going with the Vikings. Sunday Night Football. This game has a ton of playoff implications. We have the Steelers and the Chargers. Chargers will be the home team. Loser can basically wipe away any hopes of getting the first round bye. Who do we like?
I'm going to go with the Steelers. After last week's game, they don't come out mad. They're going to kind of win this game. And I'm going for the Chargers.
Yeah, Steelers, they've kind of looked flat since they absolutely dismantled the Panthers. I am going to go with the Chargers. I am really looking forward to this game. I could definitely see a path where the Steelers win, but I just think the Chargers' defense is coming around a little bit. And I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, anytime you add Joey Bosa, your defense will come around just a little bit.
Just a tad.
Yeah, just a tad. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. I think it's going to be two really good pass rushing teams going at it. I think the difference, though, is that the Chargers have a little more in the secondary than what the Steelers do. And plus, Phillip Rivers coming off the game of his life last week. And I think that he is realizing that there's more to this offense than just Keenan Allen. He has a legitimate wide receiver in Mike Williams. Tyrell Williams can take the top off of a defense at any time. He's using all of them right. I think even without Melvin Gordon, they have Austin Eckler, serviceable backup. I think they're going to get the job done on Sunday Night Football. And it seems like the Steelers are doing this weird thing where they're learning from their prior mistakes with running Le'Veon Bell a million times and really not having his legs for the playoffs. So I could see them passing the ball a ton like they did last week, which would not be good. Monday Night Football, Redskins at the Eagles. Loser of this game is all but toast in the NFC.
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think they're a better team what they're playing right now, with what they've been showing, and Colt McCoy is starting for the Redskins.
Right, pretty much what Layden said. I think the Eagles are an above-average team that has played very below average. I'm going to pick the Eagles, though, because I think the Redskins are a very below-average team that's been playing way too well. And now they have Colt McCoy.
Yes, Colt McCoy is the deciding factor. I would pick the Eagles in this one. Man, I really wish that Alex Smith was healthy, because this would actually be an awesome, awesome game to watch.
Would be.
So, guys, it is time for our producer, who goes out and he grinds. He watches multiple movies a week. Not one, not two, maybe 3 or 4 movies. And he comes in and he reviews the best movies for you. Leighton C., what do you have on the slate for us today?
1 2 1 2 Pip's Entertainment Review. Sit on down for a movie to view.
This week I'm talk about Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. And I gotta say, it's been a long time since I've been to a movie. I've sat there for, 30, 45 minutes, and it hit me that I don't know what the hell's going on in this movie. I had no clue what was going on in the movie. So you've seen the first Fantastic Beasts. You know that Grindelwald is played by Johnny Depp. And he shows up at the end of the movie because he's the bad guy in disguise. And he's there for a whole 5 minutes, and you know very little about him. Sometimes, do you know how some movies have the little scrolls of text before movies to tell you kind of what's going on? Some people don't usually make the audience feel dumb. But sometimes they're needed, because if you didn't do your due diligence before you go see this movie and watch the first one, which I obviously did not do, you will have no idea why this guy is so powerful or why he is, what he's even up to. Like, I didn't, like, so basically he's trying to make his own, like, little cult deal to go against the human world. But you don't know that until you're an hour and 45 minutes into this movie. Cause it's just never mentioned. He says he's having some kind of rally in the movie, but until it happens, you don't know what it's about. Like, the plot of this movie is just, there's just not one. Like, I had no idea what was happening for an hour and a half, guys. Hour and a half, no idea what's going on.
Was it a chance, though, that they just started the movie back from where it ended last, and they just kept on rolling?
No. Well, it probably happened, you know, a few weeks later, if not a few months later. But still,
They just forgot. They were just like, let's keep on going. Let's keep on rolling.
I think
Ride the hot hand.
I think they assumed that people who saw this movie was just either A, have remember the first one well enough that they would know what's going on still, or B, just had enough knowledge of the whole universe itself to get it all. Which isn't true, because like if remember Harry Potter movies, like you never can forget Voldemort. Like, you know Voldemort was the guy they were going against. This Grindelwald character was mentioned for 5 minutes at the end of the first movie. So you're like, okay, well, he's not gonna be a bigger mainstay, but no, he's trying to bring down the world apparently. And you don't know what the hell is going on. But you know what? Damn it. This movie looks cool. Has some cool stuff in it. I like that kind of stuff. 1.7 dips.
Wow. Even with you not knowing what was going on for majority of the movie. I like
knew
it.
That what was happening was cool. Didn't know why it was happening.
I'm just
This kind
imagining.
of sounds like the Giants' offense with Pat Shurmur. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I just know that it's kind of cool to watch at some points, and at the end of the day, I'll give it a couple dips.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very good analogy, actually.
That was excellent. That's kind of movie great.
I'm just imagining Layton sitting alone in the movie theater and looking up and being like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and
Him just sit up there scratching his head.
I think it was like, I've been in a movie before when I was younger, where a movie was just like over my head, I just didn't get what it was talking about. But this is different. Like, there's just no plot. Like, I was sitting there, and then it literally just hit me like a wall. I'm like, I don't know why they're doing this.
That's hilarious.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I don't know.
I feel like this might be a movie that you have to go watch again.
No, it's not. It's a movie. It's a movie that you want to watch the first one days prior to going to see this one. And
Okay.
And honestly, spoiler alert, this movie is my biggest pet peeve in all movies. It's an absolute fucking money grab. They made a 2-hour movie to set up another 2.5 to 3 hour movie. That's all it was. They could have taken
Success.
They could have taken 45, maybe half an hour of this garbage, just attach it to the next one, and made it awesome. Like, okay, great. This movie is successful. Satisfied all my questions immediately. But no. Instead, you get 45 to half hour of meaningful stuff, an hour and 15 minutes of plotless garbage, and a cool ending.
Producers need to make a living too, Layton.
Yeah.
Well, I think J.K. Rowling has plenty of money.
Oh, is J.K. Rowling? Okay. Yeah, no, she's doing fine.
She's doing all right, man.
Harry Potter lady, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, short this too.
All right, guys. So, Layton, Fantastic Beasts, you said 1.7 dip?
1.7 beast. Yeah, 1.7 dips. At least it looks cool.
Just because it looks cool. All right, we can take that. Sometimes you just got to, not think about things and just enjoy it for its value.
This movie will make it easy for you.
All right, guys. Any bold predictions for this week?
Down goes Bama.
Ooh.
Down goes UCF.
Oh, man. That hit close to home. Man. I'm trying to think for just a second. I had one in my head, and I'm trying to grab it back. My bold prediction. Okay, I know I picked all the other games the opposite way, but I think that this week in college football, bold as it can get, I think Ohio State, Oklahoma, and what's the other fringe team here? Be ranked number 7.
Ohio State.
No, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Georgia all lose, and UCF still gets left out for a 2-loss Georgia team just because the SEC is that loved.
I do want to see what the committee does.
Do you think the committee member in there rooting for UCF, or do you think they're all actually rooting against UCF?
They're all rooting against UCF. That way they can say, guys, we told you. We told you so. So anything else for the good of cause before we shut this down?
As you all know, Mr. Stereo comes out on Wednesday. We'll talk about its basketball stuff and more in depth and even more. And we'll have more Dwight Howard news.
Okay. That'll be very interesting. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton, and B-Rod, the Hot Take Detective, as always, Dippers, stay saucy.